ancient king once abandoned his palace because he became convinced that everyone else was happier than him. The farmer looked more peaceful. The merchant looked more free. Even wandering monks seemed more fulfilled. So one day, the king secretly left his kingdom to find the happiest life in the world. But what he discovered during that journey completely shattered the way he saw happiness forever. And by the time he returned home, he was no longer the same man. Long ago, a kingdom ruled by King Virendra. To the outside world, he looked blessed by destiny. His palace touched the clouds. Golden lamps illuminated his halls. Servants obeyed his smallest gesture. Musicians played during every royal feast. But behind those palace walls, the king was emotionally collapsing. The more luxury he gained, the emptier he became. At festivals, he forced smiles. At royal meetings, he felt numb. And every morning from his balcony, he searched for lives to envy. When he saw merchants laughing together, he thought, they have freedom. When he saw farmers eating beside rivers, he thought, they have peace. When he saw monks walking barefoot beneath the sun, he thought, they have purpose. The comparison slowly poisoned his relationships. One evening, his young son ran toward him carrying a wooden sword. "Father, will you play with me?" But the king barely looked up. "Later." The boy quietly walked away. That night, Acharya Dev, the king's old advisor, finally confronted him. "My king," he said softly, "your kingdom prospers, but your soul does not." The king finally confessed, "I have everything, yet I feel miserable. Every person I see seems happier than me. Perhaps I was born into the wrong life." The old advisor studied him carefully. Then he said, "If you truly believe that, leave the palace for 7 days, travel your kingdom as an ordinary man, and discover the truth yourself." The king agreed immediately, because deep down, he desperately hoped another life would finally feel better than his own. The next morning, the king removed his royal robes. No crown, no guards, no servants, only a simple cloak, a horse, and a bag of coins. For the first time in years, nobody bowed before him, and strangely, it felt freeing. As he traveled through villages, he watched ordinary people laughing together. Children chased chickens through muddy roads. Families sang around cooking fires. The king felt envy rising again. Yes, he thought, this is real happiness. But within days, the illusion began cracking. On the second day, the king met a farmer working beneath the burning sun. The man's clothes were soaked with sweat. His hands were cracked and bleeding. Yet when the farmer saw the traveler, he smiled warmly. "Come, stranger," he said. "Eat with me." They shared a dry bread beneath a tree. The king asked, "You must be happy living peacefully with your family." The farmer laughed bitterly. "Peacefully? If rain comes late, my crops die. If insects arrive, my family starves. Last winter, my youngest son nearly died because I could not afford medicine." Then the farmer said something unexpected. "At least kings never fear starvation." The king froze. All his life he had envied simple people, yet this farmer had spent years envying him. That night, lying inside the small hut, the king could not sleep. If he envies me, he thought, then who is actually happier? On the third day, the king entered a wealthy trading town. There, he met a merchant, surrounded by jewels, servants, and expensive silk. The king immediately thought, this man truly lives well. During dinner, the king said, "You must feel fortunate. You have wealth without the burden of ruling." The merchant's smile faded. "Fortunate? Every night I fear thieves. My brothers fight me for inheritance. My sons only love my gold. And no matter how much I earn, it never feels enough." Then he lowered his voice. "At least kings know who truly respects them. In business, Everyone smiles while calculating how to use you. Again, the king felt shaken. The poor envied the rich envied the powerful, and the powerful envied freedom. Nobody seemed satisfied. On the fourth day, the king stayed near a military camp. There he met a young soldier admired by everyone around him. Strong, fearless, respected. The king thought, "This man lives with purpose, better than palace emptiness." But during the night, the king woke to quiet sobbing. The soldier sat alone beside the fire. His hands trembled violently. "What troubles you?" the king asked. The soldier stared into the flames. "Tomorrow we march north. Most of us will die." He swallowed hard. "I pretend to be brave because soldiers are expected to smile before war. But truthfully, I am terrified." Then he whispered, "Oh, at least kings die surrounded by family. Soldiers die forgotten in mud." Those words struck the king deeply. Again, another man envied his life, and slowly, the king's entire worldview began collapsing. Maybe suffering was not attached to status. Maybe suffering followed every human being differently. By the fifth day, the king became desperate. Every life he once admired contained hidden pain. The farmer feared hunger. The merchant feared betrayal. The soldier feared death. Then finally, deep inside a forest, he found an old monk sitting peacefully beside a river. The monk owned nothing. No palace, no wealth, no servants. Yet his face carried a calmness the king had never seen before. At last, the king thought, "Here is someone truly free." He sat beside the monk. "Master," he asked, "how did you become peaceful?" The monk smiled softly. "By abandoning the habit that destroys most people." King asked, "What habit?" Monk replied, "Believing happiness exists in someone else's life." The king fell silent. The monk continued, "A farmer envies merchants. Merchants envy kings. Kings envy monks. And many monks secretly envy ordinary families because loneliness can feel heavier than gold." Then the monk picked up 2 bowls. One was made from gold, the other from clay. He filled both with water. Drink." The king drank from each bowl. "They taste the same," he said. The monk smiled. "Exactly. Most people spend their entire lives chasing golden bowls. But peace was never inside the bowl." Only those words hit the king harder than any sword. For years, he had ruined his own life chasing illusions. Before leaving, the king asked one final question. "If every life contains suffering, then how does anyone become happy?" The monk pointed toward the flowing river. "Because the river moves forward, it does not waste its life comparing itself to other rivers." Then the monk looked directly into the king's eyes. "The problem was your obsession with elsewhere." Silence filled the forest, and suddenly, the king remembered something painful. His son holding the wooden sword, his queen eating alone, his servants fearing his temper. The king realized something horrifying. While he spent years envying strangers, he had neglected the people who truly loved him. Tears filled his eyes. For the first time in years, the king saw his life clearly, not as a prison, but as a blessing he had become blind to. On the 7th day, King Virendra returned to the palace. Nothing had changed. The palace still glittered. The servants still bowed. The kingdom still prospered. But the king himself was different. That evening, he found his son practicing alone with the wooden sword. This time, the king picked up another sword. "Show me your best attack," he said. The boy's face lit up with joy. The queen watched silently from the doorway. And for the first time in years, she smiled. The king finally understood. Peace does not come from finding a perfect life. It comes from appreciating the imperfect life you already have. Slowly, his bitterness disappeared. His anger softened. His restless nights ended. And for the first time in many years, he slept peacefully. Most people destroy their happiness the same way. They compare their private struggles to another person's public appearance. They see smiles, but not anxiety. They see wealth, but not loneliness. They see freedom, but not fear. And while chasing imagined happiness somewhere else, they slowly abandon the blessings already in front of them. The grass often looks greener on the other side, only because distance hides the weeds. Real peace begins the moment you stop worshiping other people's lives and start caring for your own. Because the life you envy may secretly be praying for the peace you already have. Until next story, protect your peace, guard your mind, and remember, not every shining life is a happy one.